Yo, we back again with another episode of No Particular Theme, just apps. I'm Freddie, and in today's episode we're going to be dissecting the design of the Masterclass app. They got me, guys. They got me. I was on YouTube and I come across this ad of a masterclass where the masterclass is with an author that I had been researching. What do you know, right? I had been looking into a specific book, and I was targeted very well where I was given the ad of that specific author. So I was enticed. I started to do some research and just to see if this is really worth it or not. Masterclass does not offer a monthly subscription. It's right away a year subscription. So it's a pretty big commitment. And what I loved about the app at first, that I won't be walking through as I already downloaded it, but when you first download it, when you come into the app, they're not necessarily pushing you very much to sign up. They're pushing you to actually explore the app. Excuse me. And I love that. I love that because, again, that's a pretty big commitment. And I think you want to see the value of what it is that you're going to get before you sign up. And I looked into the specific author that I liked. And I'm taking this course right now. It's really good. And the other courses that I found were also pretty intriguing, where I feel like I came up with a list of maybe 10, where I kind of justified it in that sense that, there's a good amount of them. It's not just one specific person that I want to be learning from. And the second thing that really caught my attention was that it's a really pretty app, like really pretty. There's a lot of apps out there that are strictly video, right? YouTube, TikTok, Netflix, Hulu, all these apps that are very specific to video content. And I think Masterclass does an awesome job at how they treat this imagery and what they do with it. So first, we're going to walk into what is not necessarily their homepage, but that's what they bring you into. Second, we're going to look into their search. It's a pretty robust search, and I think it's really interesting. Third, we're going to look into the homepage and some of the key things that stand out there. And then we're going to end it off with looking at a details page and a specific lesson. So with all that being said, let's dive into it. And as I mentioned, you're not necessarily brought into the home page right away. You are brought into what is the third tab. And what's interesting is that this use of icon, I get it. It's like going up and down, side to side. And I think this specific sort of pattern here is new, that we don't necessarily have this like very universal icon for it yet. We see this pattern on TikTok, right? Where as I scroll, the whole page is taken over by this specific content. And this is the only piece of content I could see unless I scroll left or if I scroll right. Same with going up and down. Here we have the ability also to go into the class info or look at the full lessons. As we can tell here, like it's taking a little bit to load. And I've noticed that being a little bit of the downfall, or something that has just caught my attention, that it takes a while actually to load up specific videos. I think it's maybe because of this specific pattern. I think I have pretty good Wi-Fi. So I think it just has something to do with the way that they're receiving or getting information. So that's sort of their homepage, but it's not necessarily the homepage. Let's tap over to the search page here. And what I really like about this is this left rail. This almost feels like something we see on web, right? Like, it doesn't feel like something that we usually see on a native app. And this is still a whole list that's restricted, of course, to this space. And then we have, of course, like the actual lessons on the right-hand side here. And if I keep scrolling down, then, of course, I'm being taken into those specific categories. And on the left-hand side, we'll see that change. Wow, there's a lot of arts and entertainment. But as we see here, these categories are really what are sort of the driving factor of exploration. If we toggle over to that first page we were looking at, we see those categories at the top here as well, which you actually can't really scroll through. Like, if I try to scroll through the top, I can't. The way in which I have to scroll is within the actual body content, which I thought that was an interesting decision there. But if we go back into search and let's tap into the try film and TV, those categories are brought up again. So those categories are just very prominent, and it leads me to believe that this is definitely the way in which people are searching for these specific lessons. Let's go into the homepage. If we go into the homepage, this homepage is really pretty. One thing that stood out to me right away was the use of this top navigation here, and how we could still kind of see the background of what's going on. This really reminds me of like a portfolio or something, like a design portfolio online, where your navigation is sticky and you could still see it above your content. That's kind of what it reminds me of, which I really like. But we have these two main toggles here of home and my list. Again, as I told you guys, I feel like I at least have a good amount of things that I want to learn. And it was just not that one specific author. But let's go over back to home. This first list is sort of surrounded by new classes, and we can see that within that tag at the top right there. And the way in which this list is presented, you'll see it's the same way at the bottom as well. As we keep scrolling down the page, continue watching full classes. So really the classes that I've started, I haven't really started Issa Rae's. Just kind of tapped into it just to see what it was about. This piece here is really interesting, the shortcut, and clearly it's just highlights of a specific class, and I think that makes sense. Some of these courses are pretty long. I think the one that I'm doing right now, Daniel Pink, believe it's 14, if I'm not mistaken. And some videos are probably like some 24 minutes, 15 minutes. I want to say the average one is maybe 10 minutes. The point is that I would see the value in this idea of the shortcut. To me, though, this is where the value of this comes in, and where like the money in which I'm spending for this comes in, to where like I want to see the whole thing, and I get that's not the way that some people might consume this information as well. But for me, like I want to feel like my money is worth it, right? What I'm spending for this, that I want to see all the content and really want to give my time to trying to learn some of these lessons. And if we keep going down, this is where now, as I scroll down this Explorer piece, we keep having these categories again, where now I have the ability to actually scroll through them. left and right. And as I mentioned, that same list at the top here, first it's Issa Rae, Matthew Walker, Nancy Cartwright. That's the same down here, where each section now is a specific piece of that class. So if I swipe, it's a specific piece of Issa Rae's class. And if I go down and look at Matthew, it's a specific section of Matthew's class. I also like this little page control treatment. I think that's cool. I think I've seen this, if I'm not mistaken, like Panera used to have something like this. But I like that. You know, it's something a little different. And I think that's what I love about this app, is that a lot of these patterns we're used to seeing, right? Like, we're used to seeing all these things. And all these solutions are now just mediums to where we're trying to figure out how to just stretch them out, how to make them a little bit more different than what we're really used to. The last piece I wanted to look into was a detail view. And I guess a good way to get there, if I tap one of these, it's actually going to take me to the lesson. So let me just search really quick. Was I spelling Daniel wrong? We're in a details page, and this is being presented in a full modal page. We lose that tab bar there, which I think is great. It sort of allows me to focus in on this specific page. What I found interesting about this page is that, you know, a way to exit is, of course, or to dismiss it, is at the top left here, right, with that close icon. And more than half of the time, modal pages, the way that, you know, the interaction to dismiss them sometimes is that I'm going to swipe down and this is going to be dismissed. And that's not the case here. And again, I think that's interesting. It's clearly an intentional decision that was made to not treat it like that. And those are the things that stand out to me, that there was a conversation about that. There was a conversation of why not to do that, and why not to, and why to do that. But we have these two toggles here of lessons and overview. In overview, I think what's great about this, it's really just establishing expectations of what it is that you should expect if you were to take this course. If we go down, we have this list item of frequently asked questions, and then we have related classes within that category. So again, we're seeing that the specific thing here is categories, and that is the way in which we're exploring things. If we go over to lessons, let's go all the way to the one that I'm actually in right now. And I think it was lesson 6. So let's just tap into it. I want to talk about something here that I thought was awesome. Is this floating action button down here. This is great because, again, it's just a different way in which you consume information or you consume this content. You could either choose to watch these videos, or you could choose to kind of treat them maybe as like podcasts or audiobooks. And this is great too, because you know we're seeing these things, these patterns that we're familiar with again. This is something we might see like on Spotify. And what's interesting here is we see like a little hint of like the next lesson, which I like that. If we get out of it, another thing that I specifically really love is this pattern down here. This pattern down here we might see on Netflix, we might see on YouTube. What's interesting to me about it is that, let me get out of this page here. We saw how that maybe just shifted up a little bit, right? And now it's still at the bottom of this page, and this is how we are also used to seeing it in other apps. But it's elevated, and it's sort of like the most prominent thing. Like it's the thing that is first to the eye, right? Like I still have all this information in the back. I could toggle over to whatever it is, you know, in the tab bar. But this subtle thing here is just this shadow that is really bringing this specific piece of the specific pattern to the forefront. So again, it's the use of patterns that we know that are out there, but it's just how can we make them a little bit different? And I think that is the overall theme of what I find within the Masterclass app that I love. And I think it's definitely something that I'm going to keep in mind as I'm building my own products. So that was the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Peace.